What questions should you be asking if you are looking at buying a rental property? All right, guys, this is a fantastic question. And if you've got a question you'd like to have me answer similar to something like this, just type it in the comments below and I'll create a video like this for you and for all my other amazing YouTube subscribers. Thank you for being a subscriber. If you're looking at rental properties, I think there's 5 things that are like critical that you've got to ask, that you've got to find out. And meaning asking the question, I think it's more you've got to find out, because I'm not really going to walk up to the seller and say, hey, is this a great neighborhood? Because the seller's going to say, of course it's a great neighborhood, because he wants to sell the property. So, and that leads me kind of to my very, very first one, and that's crime. I like to know what's happening with crime in the area. And this isn't because I'm expecting to be in a perfect area, but what I do want to make sure is I'm not in a place where there's homicides and shootings and felonies and that type of stuff. Like if there's some misdemeanors, I get that, but you want to be careful. And this kind of gets into like the type of properties you're renting. I grade rental properties in A, B, C, D, and even E and F properties, but that's how commercial properties usually grade things. So an A property is like prime, best location, best everything. B property is, less than that. C property is like rundown, older, that type of stuff. So I do the same thing with residential rentals as well. And so one of the things that you're going to find is when you first get started, you'll make more cash flow with your C and D rental properties than you will with your A rental properties in most cases, because you're going to end up paying a lot more for A's, and the rent to purchase ratio is typically disproportionate the higher you go up in those price ranges, meaning how much you get paid in rent for how much you're paying for the property gets less as you get in those higher price ranges. And here's the reason why. They have a lot less maintenance. They have a lot less management that goes into it. I shouldn't say maintenance, but management. They have a lot less management. See, it takes a lot less when you're dealing with an A quality tenant that's going to be renting an A quality property that's paying an exorbitant amount of money in management. So when you deal with D quality rentals, you typically have a lot more management. You're dealing with bounce checks and collections issues and evictions and foreclosures, but you're buying it less, you're getting more out of it, and you're typically making a better spread if you don't count the amount of time. Now, I started out probably in C rentals with different plexes, and I quickly learned I didn't like having to do management. It was just a hassle and phone calls and problems and everything else. And so I learned a new strategy on how to manage properties. I upgraded to B quality properties, and now I do very little management, even though I have a large portfolio of single family rental properties. And I like it that way because I like my time, and my time's more important than making a little bit extra, because if I do the math on how much time I was spending for the extra I was making, I was working for well below minimum wage with the hopes for appreciation and tax write-offs and those types of things in the future. But I figured, why not give that up, not have to deal with the hassles, and still have all the appreciation and the write-offs and all that other fun stuff that's happening. So the first thing we're talking about here is crime. The second thing, and I find that these kind of go together, and that's school districts. Now, in my area where I invest, school districts aren't as big of a deal, but in some areas, values of properties and everything, it really goes to school districts. And I find good school districts are typically in lower crime areas, but you're going to want to make sure, if you want to get a good tenant, you want to be in that A or B category, good tenants want to be at good schools for their kids. That's one of the things that's important to them. So you want to make sure you're good schools. Now, that doesn't mean your school has to be a 10 out of 10, but you want to make sure they're decent schools. You want to just make sure you're not dealing with the schools that are like 1 out of 10 type scenarios. Typically 5 is a decent school. They don't grade them like they do academic grades, right? So a 5 and above in a school grading is what I'm kind of looking for. Next thing is, I want to know, number 3 is how much I am going to get in rents. What's this sucker really going to rent for? That's a big thing I need to understand. What's it renting for? What are other things renting for? And how can I understand what I'm going to expect in getting in rents is really important. So if you're enjoying this video and you want to hear these other 2 tips, please hit that thumbs up button and consider becoming a subscriber to the channel. Next, I want to understand my loan terms and what my payment's going to be, because all I'm looking for is cash flow, and the cash flow is the difference between what I receive and what I have to pay. So I need to understand what type of loan I can get on the property, what I can expect to get paid as my rents versus what my loan is, taxes, insurance. If there's an HOA, I need to understand how much that is, any of those things, so I know all of my expenses, and then that will help me understand my cash flow. Now, the cash that I'm getting isn't just mine, because I need to set some money aside for repairs, toilet breaks, that type of stuff. I need to set some money aside for capital improvements. I'm gonna have to replace the shingles at some point. I'm gonna have to replace the HVAC unit, so I'm gonna have to set that aside. I'm gonna have to set aside a little bit of money for vacancy. So when I have a vacancy, I can use that money to actually pay the loan, so I don't have to come out of pocket with those things. And then what's left is going to be considered my cash flow. Now, keep in mind, you do have some offsettings, because you are going to have tax write-offs, you're going to have some depreciation. In addition to that, you're going to have your cash flow, and you're going to have your appreciation, and not to mention you're going to have your amortization, meaning each month you pay, it pays down your loan a little bit, and somebody else is doing that, and that's not money out of your pocket. So those are all things you can calculate in when you're determining if this is a great rental property or not. The fifth thing that I'm looking for is tenant length, meaning how long is a tenant really going to stay there? And I'll tell you, this one's probably the hardest. I find my best luck is when I've got 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms with a 2-car garage. That's, for my market and what I deal with, is like an ideal property. If I can find those are fantastic properties if I can get them for the right price. And typically, somebody's gonna stay in that property a long time. Right now, my average tenant is staying 4 to 5 years right now, because when I get a family in there and they become part of the community, they find a church there, they go to school there, that type of stuff, they usually don't want to leave as long as I treat them well. And I have a whole rental philosophy on how to do that. If you'd be interested in that, type it in the comments below, and I can put something together for you on this. So if you'd like to get a copy of my rental calculator, text me your email address, 435-294-0433. Text me that email address, and with that, I'll shoot you over a copy of my rental calculator, absolutely free. I have a blog post you're going to want to read up on. I'll put it in the comments below, the complete guide to evaluating a potential rental property. And I've got another video for you to check out, how to rehab a house for rental, what you need to do to make the house great for rental. I'll put it on the screen, put it in the comments, check out that video as well. Otherwise, make it a very profitable day, and bye for now.